Good afternoon. I'm calling to order the House Committee on Consumer Protection and Commerce. It is Wednesday, February 28th, 2024. It's 2 p.m. We're in conference room 329. Again, for those who are on Zoom, please keep yourselves muted, video off until it's your turn to testify. For those who are testifying in person, please use the podium when you're speaking so that everyone could hear you online. We will be having a 2-minute time limit. I will let you know when your 2-minute time limit is up, and please summarize your testimony at that time. First, on today's agenda, we have HB 1828 HD1 relating to energy efficiency portfolio standards. First to testify, we have Michael Angelo from DCCA, Division of Consumer Advocacy and Support.
Chair, Vice Chair, member of the committee, Mickey Knox for the Division of Consumer Advocacy. We stand on our testimony and support, but we're here to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have the Hawaii State Energy Office in support. Not here. Okay, we'll be moving on to Chair Leo Asuncion from the Public Utilities Commission in support.
Good afternoon, Chair Nakashima, Vice Chair Sayama, and member of the committee. I'm Ashley Norman, Utility Analyst from the Public Utilities Commission. We stand on a written testimony, and I'm here available to answer any questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, we have Jody Robinson from the Blue Planet Foundation in support.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Jody Robinson from Blue Planet in strong support of this bill. I want to acknowledge the House for signing this on as your House Majority Package bill. Energy efficiency remains the most cost-effective way for us to reduce our carbon emissions associated with the electricity sector, and it provides an additional benefit of reducing electricity bills, our highest in the nation electricity rates for Hawaii's families. And we've made a lot of progress on our 100% clean energy goals, and we see a need to align our energy efficiency goals with the same targets. So this measure is necessary and timely to align planning across the energy sector while, again, providing that economic benefit by conserving energy and saving money for Hawaii on electricity. So thank you very much for the opportunity to testify in support.
Thank you. Next, we have Caroline Carl from the Hawaii Energy in support.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, Chester Carson for Hawaii Energy, and we stand on written testimony in support. Here for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other persons here to testify on this measure? Okay, seeing none, members, we do have written testimony and support from the Hawaii Green Infrastructure Authority, County of Kauai, City and County of Honolulu Office of Climate Change, Sustainability and Resiliency, Climate Protectors Hawaii, HECA's Building Decarbonization Task Force, Citizens Climate Lobby Hawaii, Ulupono Initiative, Wild Kids Hawaii, Kauai Climate Action Coalition 350 Hawaii, Hawaii Solar Energy Association, Democratic Party of Hawaii, and Hawaii Electric, as well as 21 individuals in support, 1 in opposition. Members, are there any questions? Seeing none, we'll be moving on to the next item on the agenda, HB 1896 HD1 relating to environmental protection. First to testify, we have the Environmental Health Administration from the Department of Health in support.
Good afternoon, Chair Nakashima, Vice Chair Sayama, and members of the committee. My name is Michael Burke. I'm with the Hawaii State Department of Health, Food and Drug Branch. We stand on our written testimony and support, and I'm available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Tina Yamaki from Retail Merchants of Hawaii in opposition.
Aloha, I'm Tina Yamaki with the Retail Merchants of Hawaii. We are respectfully oppose this bill. There's so many things that have PFAS in it that we're not really sure exactly what it is. I know the FDA was just told that the FDA came out with some bans as of today. With regards to cosmetics and other products, we should do a study to find out exactly which products these things encompass first. I don't think manufacturers do like a cup of sugar, a cup of PFAS kind of thing. PFAS is in a lot of things. So I think we should do a study to find out what is exactly affected. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other persons here to testify on this measure? Seeing none, members, we have written testimony and support from the Board of Water Supply, Sierra Club of Hawaii, Americans for Democracy Action Hawaii, comments from the Consumer Brands Association, supportive testimony from the Hawaii Reef and Ocean Coalition, and Kauai Climate Action Coalition, as well as the Hawaii Food and Policy. We have written testimony and support from 5 individuals. Members, are there any questions on this measure? Okay, seeing none, we'll be moving on to HB 1897. This is relating to single-use plastics. First to testify, we have the Environmental Health Administration from the Department of Health with comments.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Leno Tu for Department of Health. We stand on our written testimony providing comments on the bill.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other persons here to testify on this measure? Seeing none, members, we have written testimony with comments from the Hawaii Tourism Authority, opposition from the Plastics Industry Association, support from the Hawaii Reef and Ocean Coalition, support from Kauai Climate Action Coalition, and an individual in opposition. Members, are there any questions? Seeing none, we'll be moving on to HB 2020 HD1 relating to renewable energy. First to testify, we have Kevin Moore from the Department of Land and Natural Resources in support.
Hi, good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members. The department stands on its written testimony and support, and we're available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Russell Tsuji from the Department of Land and Natural Resources in support as well.
Yeah, I don't think he's on, but
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Very good. We'll be moving on to the Hawaii State Energy Office in support.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Monique Schaefer, Decarbonization Program Manager for the Hawaii State Energy Office. We stand on our written testimony in support of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Chair Leo Sunshin from the Public Utilities Commission with comments.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Anon Samtani with the Public Utilities Commission. We stand on a written testimony with comments. I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have James Abraham from the Hawaiian Electric with comments on Zoom.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is James Abraham. I'm testifying on behalf of Hawaiian Electric, offering comments on House Bill 2020. I do have concerns with this bill because it would enable the use of state land for wheeling of electricity. There are serious equity concerns, as detailed in our written testimony, with how a mainland retail wheeling model could be implemented on our isolated island grids, which operate very differently from the mainland bulk power grid. This bill would appear to allow the BLNR to lease state land to renewable energy producers for the purpose of wheeling. But we believe the proper use of any renewable energy produced on state land would be to help lower costs for all customers, rather than benefiting just one or maybe a few off-takers. Thank you. I'm available for questions.
Thank you. Are there any other persons here to testify on this measure? Seeing none, members, we do have written testimony in support from the Hawaii Forest Industry Association, opposition from the Kauai Island Utility Cooperative, and an individual in support. Members, are there any questions?
Sure.
Representative Onishi.
Yeah, for DLNR.
Yes, Representative.
So you just heard the testimony from the PUC. So is that the purpose why DLNR supports it?
No, what's prompting this bill is we have a renewable energy entity that's interested in generating hydrogen gas from fresh water using solar power. And so the solar power generated from the state lands would not generate electricity to be sold to the grid. It would, result in hydrogen gas, which would either be sold to one of the gas utilities or made available to the public. So it's not a wheeling situation in this particular case.
So you wouldn't be opposed if there were restrictions put on what DLNR could utilize the land, what kind of projects?
Yes, I think that'd be fair. We'd be open to amendments that would allay the concerns from, yeah.
Yeah, if the projects were not allowed to sell the electricity produced to consumers.
Right. I think that would be fine.
Okay. Can I have a follow-up with
Please go ahead.
PUC?
Yes?
So allowing DLNR to come up with a project that produces energy, that company does not have to go before the PUC in order to get permitting?
Or are you talking about, what kind of scale project are you talking about? I mean, if it's,
Well, I guess like in this case, this project here,
well, typically, if it's from the utility, it comes to our application. We only regulate the utility, basically, right? We regulate HECO, MECO.
okay, or projects that would, the utility company is
Right.
trying to purchase the power
Exactly.
from.
Like a power purchase agreement, we would have to approve that.
Okay, but in order to do wheeling in a community, wouldn't that producer have to come up with some agreement for the delivery system?
Right, the use
people?
of the infrastructure, HECO's infrastructure.
Right. So that wouldn't fall under your purview?
That would. I mean, that would, yeah. I mean, anything regarding their infrastructure, that is, right?
So you would have the ability to approve or not approve the contract,
On the interconnection side,
right?
right. The thing is with the wheeling piece is selling, right? There's other bills related to wheeling that are addressing that. So one thing we stated in those bills is to open an investigatory docket to look into the wheeling before you make any, statements on that or position. And then we'll have a report on that as well. That was our, I think there was a companion, there's another bill, 2098, I think it is.
Okay, but if we pass this bill,
Yeah.
then that creates a problem for you guys.
Right. So what we asked is if you could amend it to take out the contemplation or the addition of wheeling. Like it wouldn't allow for wheeling under this particular bill.
So you heard my question earlier to DLNR about restricting their projects
Yeah.
to projects that do not sell the power created to consumers. I mean, well, not consumer. Everybody's a consumer, right? But directly to utility consumers, or I don't know.
Yeah. It's basically anything in front of the meter. Like if it's behind the meter, we don't really regulate. It's what is in front of the meter. We have to say whether it's the infrastructure or if it's a PPA, right?
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Members, any further questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll be moving on to HB 2390, HD1 relating to renewable energy. First to testify, we have the Hawaii State Energy Office in support. Thank you. Next, we have Chair Leo Sunshin from the Public Utilities Commission in support.
Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Ashley Norman, Utility Analyst with the Public Utilities Commission. We stand on written testimony and available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Michael Angelo from the DCCA Division of Consumer Advocacy in support.
Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Mickey Knox from the Division of Consumer Advocacy. We stand on our testimony in support, offering friendly amendments to improve the bill, and we're here for any questions. Just one note about that last bill. We have been tracking that bill but not testifying on it. In the past, we have argued that any project that goes across public utility lines would trigger PUC.
Sorry, this is relating to the
jurisdiction.
previous bill?
Yes.
Let's limit our comments for this bill only.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Okay. Next, we have James Abraham from the Hawaiian Electric with comments on Zoom.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. James Abraham, testifying on behalf of Hawaiian Electric, supporting the intent of House Bill 2390, and we offer some clarifying amendments which are provided in our written testimony. We do support the intent of the bill to limit the types of PUC proceedings where a detailed GHG analysis is required to those projects that involve combustion of fuel. Our proposed amendments try to clarify aspects of the current bill, including the definition of life cycle greenhouse gas emissions assessment. Specifically, our amendments seek to tailor this new definition to the purpose of HRS Section 269-B or 6B, and the methods utilized in GHG analyses that Hawaiian Electric has submitted to the PUC thus far under this law. And I'm available for questions. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Are there any other persons here to testify on this measure? Seeing none, members, we do have a written testimony from an individual in support. Members, are there any questions? Representative Lowen.
I guess for Energy Office, since you're here. I don't know if you're familiar with the amendments that HECO is asking for.
I have not looked at them yet, no.
Okay, all right, maybe we'll follow up offline then.
Okay.
Never mind. All right, thanks.
Thank you. Members, any further questions? Seeing none, we'll be moving on to the next measure, HB 1836, HD1, relating to health. First to testify, we have James Skwitzky from the Board of Pharmacy in support.
Good morning, Chair and members of the committee. James Gizuski here on behalf of the Board of Pharmacy. We're here to stand on our written testimony and available for any questions.
Thank you. Next, we have Mihoko Ito from Walgreens with comments. On Zoom. Okay. Moving on to Dawn Kurisu from HMSA with comments.
Afternoon, Chair Nakashima, Vice Chair Sayama, members of the committee, Walden on behalf of HMSA. Very supportive of the intent of this measure. As we saw last August, the need for this type of legislation. Our only comment would be is just whether or not this directly applies to individuals that are directly impacted by the emergency. That's all we have. But again, supportive of the intent. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other persons here to testify on this measure? Seeing none, members, we have a written testimony in support from the Disability and Communication Access Board, University of Hawaii, Hawaii Primary Care Association, the Hawaii Medical Association, American Cancer Society, Cancer Action Network, Healthcare Association of Hawaii, the Hawaii Pharmacists Association, and 2 individuals in support. Members, are there any questions? Representative Onishi.
Did the Board of Pharmacy testify?
Yes, James.
Yeah, could you please come on, please? Thank you. I forgot who testified.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, I was reading part of the bill. So there are 2 different requests for amendments. One is to look at the governor's proclamation for Maui, the Maui wildfire, and to incorporate that language into the bill in order to trigger a pharmacist being able to prescribe a 30-day supply of prescriptions. Do you have any opinion on that?
No, I mean, the board was very supportive of the governor and lieutenant governor's actions during the state of emergency. So, I mean, I think if the intent is to, reiterate that if that happens again, that similar actions are provided the flexibility for pharmacists to act, and they're going to be good with it.
Okay, and the bill as it's intended right now would apply to anybody in the state during a declaration of an emergency by the governor, regardless of where that declaration is intended, right? So it could be applied to, for example, in Hilo, for pharmacists to act on it if he cannot get the prescribing physician's approval. You think that should be the way it should be applied, or should it be only as HMSA is requesting an amendment to the areas that are affected by the declaration?
This is an issue that I will be bringing up with the board next week at their meeting. I think they supported the intent of, supporting those individuals in areas where the emergency happened, such as Lahaina, and, their prescribers, doctors' offices burned down and you couldn't reach out to them. So I'm sure they would be willing to support that kind of amendment to the bill. I know another issue that the board is going to be considering is that how it pertains to controlled substances. I think they will be having extensive discussion next week at their meeting to consider asking for an amendment to change that to just prescription drug rather than controlled substance. So that's just some of the discussions that have been going on between me and some of the board members individually as the bill has changed since its original introduction.
Okay, but you folks wouldn't be opposed to restricting it only to
No,
the areas that are identified in the proclamation?
no, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Members, any further questions? Seeing none, we'll be moving on to HB 1777 HD1 relating to dental hygienists. First to testify, we have the Department of Health in support. Thank you. Next, we have the University of Hawaii in support.
Good afternoon, Chair Nakashima, Vice Chair Sayama, members of the committee. My name is Clementina Seriulep, Dean of the UH School of Nursing. Thank you for hearing this measure, and we support this measure and would like to provide additional comments. So at present, for a dental sealant to be applied by a dental hygienist, a dentist has to be on site. That's a problem because we don't have enough dentists, especially in our neighbor islands, and that really impedes the ability to apply the much-needed dental sealants to our keiki. And in Hawaii, we have the highest dental caries in the nation, so this is a much-needed treatment for our children. And so this measure proposes to remove that requirement for a dentist to be on site to supervise the dental hygienist, and instead just requires them to be available for consultation. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Sheena Choi from the Board of Dentistry in support.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Sheena Choi, Executive Officer of the Board of Dentistry. The board stands on its written testimony and is available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Patrick Donnelly from the Hawaii Oral Health Coalition in support on Zoom.
Hi, good afternoon, Chair Nakashima and Vice Chair Sayama, members of the committee. Patrick Donnelly, representing the Hawaii Oral Health Coalition. I want to thank you all for hearing this measure, and we stand on our written testimony in strong support. Mahalo.
Thank you. Next, we have Mai Hall from HCAN Speaks in support.
Aloha, Chair Nakashima, Vice Chair Sayama, and committee members. On behalf of the Hawaii Children's Action Network Speaks, mahalo for this opportunity to testify. I'd like to add a little bit to my testimony to say that school-based sealant programs are efficient and cost-effective. It saves copious amounts of pain that children currently have to undergo getting their cavities filled. Our dental hygienists in Hawaii are currently trained and calibrated to work under the general supervision of qualified licensed dentists. And only 10% of children under Medicaid have dental sealants. This indicates that even with insurance, there are barriers to access. Parents who have to work 2 jobs to put food on the table and afford the high rent may not have the luxury of paid time off to take off of work, to pick up your child from school, drive or catch the bus to a clinic that may be 45 minutes out of their way in most rural areas across the state. These barriers currently exist. A school-based oral health program would reach our keiki, who are at high risk for cavities. As we've heard, our 3rd graders have the highest rate of cavities across the nation. By having a school-based oral health program, it would bring the service directly to our children in public schools. Oral health and physical health are no longer distinct categories. The school-based program would also follow up on any procedures to receive family education and refer children out to the dental home community who may not have dentists. So it is a good way to reach families where they're at and make those referrals out to the community. The impact of poor oral health is felt for a person's lifetime. Hawaii must turn the tide of poor outcomes for children's oral health, and changing key policies such as this one would allow the expansion of school-based oral health programs to promote healthier and happier keiki, who have something to smile about. Mahalo.
Thank you. Next, we have Ellie Kelly Miyashiro from Hawaii Dental Hygienists Association on Zoom. Okay. Next, we have Don Karisu from HMSA in support. Thank you. Are there any other persons here to testify on this measure? Seeing none, members, we do have written testimony in support from the Disabilities and Communication Access Board, Hawaii Dental Service, Aloha Care, Hawaii Dental Association, and 4 individuals in support. Members, are there any questions?
Sure.
Representative Onishi.
Yeah, for Department of Health. So,
Yes.
thank you for being here. Is there a school-based dental program?
In the state,
Yes.
not, not strictly a state-sponsored program, but there is through our Keiki Nurses program through University of Hawaii. There are also community-based organizations such as Waianae Coast Comprehensive Center that has a comprehensive school-based sealant program on, pardon me, on the west side of Oahu.
In the public school system?
Yes.
So how extensive is this program in the state?
Right now,
Yeah.
it's not very extensive, mostly because there's not enough resources, and it would require, if a dental hygienist was to go into the school, currently, licensed dentist would have to accompany them.
Okay, so if we pass this bill, what do you think is going to be the outcome? Are we going to have?
The outcome would be more of our community partners and our dental partners partnering with local dental hygienists and local the DOE and communities providing dental sealants in the schools.
Well, it's very concerning to me that the DOE didn't even testify on this bill when it's a program within the schools. So right now, how does the DOE manage access into the schools?
Right now through the Hawaii Keiki Nurses program.
Okay, and how many schools is that through?
I don't know. I have to get back to you on that.
Okay, maybe UH?
Again, Clementina Seri-Ulep, Dean of the School of Nursing and Dental Hygiene at UH Manoa. So I want to introduce Dr. Deb Matus, who is the lead project director for the Hawaii Keiki program. And we have a dental sealant program that's in collaboration and paid for by Hawaii Dental Service, administered by the Hawaii Keiki program. So let's have Dr. Mathis further clarify. Yeah.
So I'm also the dental sealant director for Hawaii Keiki program. So this program actually started in 2019 with funding through Hawaii Dental Service. As we were saying, we actually send out a team into the schools with a dentist, a dental hygienist, and we have our nurses and our health techs that also contribute. Last year, the program has grown. Last year, we were able to reach 68 schools, 68 elementary schools. So again, we do this for our second and our third graders to be able to do the sealants on their molars when they erupt. We reached 68 schools, elementary schools. 2007 keiki were screened. 61% of them needed and received dental sealants. Our barrier is it's hard for us to find dentists, particularly on the Big Island, Hawaii Island. We were able to actually collaborate with the Native Hawaiian Health Center on Maui, so they actually help us and coordinate services over on Maui. But Molokai, Lanai, we cannot get a dentist, so therefore, if we don't have a dentist on site, we have a dental hygienist, so then therefore we cannot make the assessment, apply the sealants, and take care of these keiki that really need us. So being able to do this without having a dentist on site would allow us for a much greater reach to all of our other schools that we're not able to reach right now. This year we're reaching the Big Island, but we're flying a dentist from Oahu over with the dental team to actually be able to do that service. It's not really efficient, and it's not really cost effective. So this would really allow us to have a much greater reach and impact more of those keiki, because I can tell you our nurses tell me every day, these kids are coming in, their teeth are a mess. They can't sit, they can't attend school, they're not feeling well, and then when they do go in, the cost of repairing a tooth is so much more costly for the state than putting a sealant on.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you very much.
Members, are there any further questions? Seeing none, we'll be moving on to the next item on the agenda, HB 2800 HD1 relating to mental health. First to testify, we have Jin Tae Kim, Deputy Attorney General from the Attorney General's Office in opposition.
Good afternoon, Chair and the committee, members of the committee. My name is Jin Tae Kim, or JT Kim for short. I'm a Deputy Attorney General assigned to the Health Division. I'm here today because the Department of Attorney General opposes the bill HB number 2800 HD1. First of all, the bill has a constitutional concern as the bill is not expressly placed within a principal department of the state as required by the Constitution. Even if the language of the bill was could be fixed or could be fixed, the bill itself is not an effective way to resolve, amend, or fix the mental health law. The bill requires the Department of Attorney General to coordinate with at least 13 different representatives from various city and county and state departments to review, report to the legislation. Such a large committee from the entire islands would be burdensome to the department to coordinate. The department already has plans, as indicated in the written testimony, to meet with the Department of Health during the summer to identify a plan to undertake such review. Furthermore, the case law can change at any time. Unlike legislative sessions where there are time and place for introduction of bill, court can decide on any mental health issue or law whenever it comes up. Thus, even if the committee was provided with a report every 10 years, it could become obsolete soon thereafter. Lastly, the bill would make it difficult to allow informal discussion between departments to bring ideas and thoughts together, since it would be governed by the Sunshine Law. So there are a lot of barriers and difficulties that I would like to mention to the committees. If there's any question, thank you for your time and allowing me to testify. I'm available for questioning.
Thank you. Next, we have the Behavioral Health Administration from the Hawaii State Department of Health and Support. Okay. Not here. Are there any other persons here to testify on this measure? Seeing none, members, we do have written testimony and support from the Disability and Communication Access Board, State Council on Mental Health, and comments from the Queen Health System. Members, are there any questions? Representative Onishi.
Yeah, for Department of Health?
I don't
they weren't here.
think they're
to
here, yeah.
testify. Okay, the AG's office then. So in your testimony, you speak about having an agreement to convene discussions with Department of Health.
Yes.
When was that done?
That was recent, I guess, agreement between the Department of Health and the Attorney General's office as this bill came through. Prior to this bill, I guess the amendment of this bill, the Department of Health was supposed to coordinate. However, as the amendment on in HD1, which is the amendment to this bill, the Attorney General is now supposed to coordinate the entire 13 different departments, which makes it much more difficult for the department to carry out such coordination, especially when the Attorney General's office main focus is not just mental health.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of understand that, but I guess my question was, so the Attorney General talked to the Director of Health and said, hey, you know what, let's work on this offline versus having this bill pass, I guess and the department agreed.
I can't say for sure. I can't. I did not. I wasn't involved in that conversation, so I cannot answer that question personally. So, but I was told by the head of the department, by the attorney general, that there is a ongoing coordination between the Department of Health and the Attorney General's office to review and report regarding mental health laws.
Okay, so this was prior to this bill? That there's this coordination, or is it once this bill got amended, then there was discussion to do this coordination?
I cannot answer that question because I wasn't there doing that. I wasn't.
Well, what did the Attorney General tell you? Because it's in your testimony.
Yes, the Attorney General told me, what the Attorney General told me was that there is a future effort to coordinate between the Department of Health and the Attorney General to review the mental health code and law so that they can make a report to the legislation.
Okay. My concern is that evidently, whatever that discussion was had between the Attorney General and the Director of the Department of Health, it didn't get down to the division heads. There's 3 divisions that are testifying in support of this bill. And you're the only one that's testifying against this bill because you said there's another way to do this and that there's an agreement to do it that way. So I'm really confused, why you guys are saying there's an agreement and the other department or the divisions within the Department of Health are saying, no, we need this bill.
Again, prior to the amendment of this bill, the Department of Health was to coordinate.
Right, I understand that. I mean, my concern is that if there is it's not just you guys trying to get out of this bill. You understand what I'm saying? I think the departments all recognize that there needs to be updates, or the divisions recognize that there needs to be updates in the law. And how do we go about doing this? This was the way that they thought that it would be more efficient versus any other suggestion. And they are probably unaware of this working agreement now with the Attorney General and the Director of the Department of Health. Or, I don't know. We don't know that there is truly an agreement.
I was told that there was a agreement, at least.
I understand what you were told, but you're asking us to kill this bill. And if we kill this bill and nothing happens, then we're 1 year down the road where nothing has happened to address these issues.
Well, I'm also testifying that this is an effective way. It's not an effective way to coordinate 13 different departments, at the minimum, to come together with various different interests for them to agree and make a report to the legislators. So we believe that the way we can better serve the legislators is through reporting maybe individually or by sections, but not having just a general blanket of the Chief Justice, the Prosecutor's Office, the Public Defender's Office, and numerous other departments trying to come together to create a report that we can all submit to the legislature as a one opinion.
Well, you're aware the legislature does this all the time.
I understand the legislator does it all the time, and I'm not saying that that it can't be done. However, I don't think it is, because there's different interests involved in this matter, and mental health law affects different departments differently. They have different interests in how they would about reporting it to the legislator. So if they all try to combine the information into one report, they might not agree to sign on the report as well.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Vice Chair.
Thank you. Members, any further questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll be moving on to the next item in the agenda, HB 1539 HD1 relating to transportation. First to testify on this measure, we have the Insurance Division from DCCA with comments.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, committee members. Ian Robertson for the DCCA Insurance Division. We stand on our written testimony, but I wanted to point out that we did include a suggestion on the second page that the second minimum insurance increase that would automatically take effect on January 1, 2027, that you consider removing that so that it can be reassessed after the impacts of the first mandatory increase can be reviewed. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Next, we have David Williams from the Department of Attorney General's office with comments.
Good afternoon, Chair Nakashima and members of the committee. Deputy Attorney General Elise Oyama from the Criminal Justice Division. We just offered comments specifically on page 8 related to excessive speeding. The proposal is suggesting amending it to a maximum of 90 days, which would change the offense to a misdemeanor once it's over 30 days. So we just wanted to note that. I'll be available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Taryn Tomasa from the Office of the Public Defender in opposition.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is William Bento. I'm a Deputy Public Defender. I'm here on behalf of the Office of the Public Defender. We do oppose the bill. We have submitted our written testimony. I'd just like to add a few other things. There really has not been shown a correlation between increased penalties, punishments, to make our roads necessarily safer. And this bill does take the approach of being a stick, in a sense, to punish people in a greater way, hoping to keep them in compliance and drive on the road safely, which is something that everybody wants. It also hopes to try to get more people insured. So I would suggest perhaps using the carrot approach as well, which would be if a person gets charged with one of these offenses, they come to court and the court can give them a period of time in which they can get their driver's license, come back and prove that they're a licensed driver, and earn a dismissal of the charge. The same with insurance. The court can place them on a period of probation or deferral, if you will, whatever language you want to use. And they can come and show that they are now insured for 6 months or a year prepaid. And at the end of that period of time, the case can be dismissed, because it seems to me that the purpose of the bill is to get people to be licensed and to get people to be insured. Last year, this legislature funded a program called Community Court, where we have dedicated prosecutors, dedicated public defenders that literally beat the bushes to find people that have traffic stoppers, license stoppers, and all that kind of thing, and help people to clear out their old district court cases and traffic cases, help them to become relicensed so that they can drive legally and do the things that they need. Bills like this affect the poorest people in our community, and they're the ones that need their vehicles and licenses because they're working 2 or 3 jobs, having to pick up their kids and deal with that kind of thing. So I just ask if you would consider some of our suggestions, and I'm available for any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we have Evan Owe from the Hawaii Association for Justice in support.
Aloha Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Evan Oy on behalf of the Hawaii Association for Justice. We stand in strong support of this measure. We just wanted to note that the Hawaii automobile insurance minimums haven't been increased in over 25 years, which has resulted in a more than 50% reduction in consumer protection. And Hawaii remains one of only 6 states that require less than or $20,000 or less in coverage, placing us near the bottom nationally in this important consumer protection category. When accounting for inflation, the $20,000 that was put in place in 1998 now equates to about $40,000 to $45,000 in today's dollars. So that's why we support the original amounts in the bill, which would have elevated it to $50,000 per person and $100,000 in the aggregate. And we just wanted to note that when we took a look at the base rates currently filed at the DCCA, we did an analysis of what the increase to premium increases to $50,000 and $100,000 would be, and it comes out to about $25 to $70 per year. And when you take that in comparison with the additional $30,000 per person or additional $60,000 in the aggregate, the cost is really outweighed by the benefits. So ultimately, driving is a privilege here in Hawaii, and it carries the potential for causing serious injuries on our roads. And HAJ greatly supports greater consumer protection, and we strongly support this bill. And we'll be available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Allison Ueoka from the Hawaii Insurers Council with comments.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Allison Ueoka for Hawaii Insurers Council. We'll stand on our written testimony with comments, and we'll also support the amendments of the Insurance Division. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Annie Macapagal from the American Property Casualty Insurance Association in opposition. Apologies for that.
That's okay. That's okay. Aloha, Annie Macapagal on behalf of the American Property Casualty Insurance Association. We'll stand on our testimony in opposition, but just to clarify, we are in opposition solely to the portion of the bill that sets motor vehicle insurance minimums. We stand neutral on the penalty portion. As to our objections, we question the timing of whether the legislature should be considering higher insurance minimums at a time where the current consumers are already facing insurance premium increases. We similarly are concerned about the consumers who would decide not to purchase insurance at all, which are most likely those who are in the lower income bracket. Keeping costs down should be a significant consideration for policymakers. Thus, we would respectfully request the committee consider deleting the language that refers to the minimum requirements for motor vehicle insurance. Mahalo for the opportunity to testify. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Davin Aoyagi from Turo with comments.
Aloha Chair, Vice Chair, other committee members, Davin Aoyagi with Turo. We'll stand on our written testimony offering comments. Just to underscore the point, our primary just concern would be the unintended consequence that the increasing the insurance minimums may have on peer-to-peer car sharing, given that last year, pursuant to Act 210, the legislature made a decision to align our insurance minimums at 4 times the state minimums. So should this measure pass with significantly higher insurance minimums, we may see a skyrocketing in our minimums as well. I'm available for questions. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Next, we have Matt Tsujimura from State Farm in opposition.
Aloha Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Matt Tsujimura on behalf of State Farm. You have our written testimony and we'll stand in opposition. Primarily, again, as Annie had mentioned, we're also in opposition to Section 6 of the bill, which would adjust the minimum financial responsibility requirements with regards to the minimum limits. Really, in the bigger picture of things, the concern is that those who purchase the minimum insurance limits, the reason why they purchase those limits is because that's really all that they can afford. And so to increase those limits will lead to an increase in cost, which will most likely, all the evidence points towards an increase in the underinsured and uninsured motorist issue. And so really what we're concerned about is that at the current limits, it allows for more people to have some coverage versus increasing the coverage and saying that fewer people are going to have a little bit higher coverage, but that also means that there will be a larger portion of drivers in Hawaii that will drive around without insurance whatsoever, which will then prohibit recovery from those individuals at all. But if the committee is inclined to move the measure, we do have two proposed amendments, one to push out the effective date and one with regards to a waiver requirement for those who purchase policies and waive purchasing underinsured or uninsured motorist insurance coverage. But happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other persons here to testify on this measure? Seeing none, members, we do have written testimony in support from the Honolulu Department of the Prosecuting Attorney's Office and two individuals in support. Members, are there any questions? Actually, I do have a question for the Office of Public Defender. So you mentioned in your testimony a community program that the legislature had funded last year. Can you speak to, I don't know, when this program was established and how it's been effective at addressing its mission?
Well, it's been several years. I don't know exactly when it was formed, but it has been funded and supported by the legislature. And the purpose was that there just were a large amount of members in the community, many being our houseless population, that had license stoppers and a lot of district court and traffic court cases that had been unresolved. And the hope in the very beginning was to actually take the court and go into the communities and, like I said, literally beat the bushes to find these individuals and help them clear all of these things out. I don't practice in that area. We do have a dedicated attorney from our office that's involved there. But my understanding is that it has been very successful in helping people to clear out these old cases, and it's helpful to the judiciary as well to get these cases resolved. And people then are able to clear those stoppers, get a license, which is not just the right to or privilege to drive legally, but also serves as the main identification for most people in our community.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, and for the record, what's the name of the program?
I believe it's called Community Court.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And sorry, to follow up, unrelated to that program, just, trying to find a little bit more clarity on the position of your opposition. You, I guess, encouraged a carrot approach, but recently, at least in Honolulu, we have been seeing a lot more high-profile cases of drivers who aren't holding insurance, who don't have a license, getting into fatal car accidents. For these drivers, it is important that we do have certain accountability measures. Do you find, I guess, over the course of this, do you find any data that these increases in penalties drive changes in behavior for these drivers?
I've been practicing in this area of the law for over 30 years. And it's sad to say that I think for most of us, we are deterred. We think about, not having a second drink when we're out for dinner. We make sure that we're there to go and get our license renewed at the right time. But there are some people out there that don't have that impulse control or don't think about the ramifications. I can't tell you that has increased or decreased, but what I can say is that I've seen these high-profile cases before in these circumstances and many other circumstances. Changes in the law to make the penalties harsher usually do not deter future bad acts. What does is the community members becoming aware of what happens. What I would really strongly suggest, and I've seen this work, is taking individuals who've gone through this system and have been prosecuted and have seen the light and have them do public service announcements, commercials, speak in the community and talk about what they had to go through and how bad they feel about what happened. I've seen that work and touch people much better than having to pay a large fine. Thank you.
Thank you. No further questions for the public defender. For Hawaii Insurers Council, Allison? So I guess, yeah, right, there's two parts to this legislation, and I'd like to address the mandatory minimum insurance portion now. From the written testimony provided by the Hawaii Association for Justice, we do note, or we do see that the claim, right, by increasing the mandatory minimum insurance is that the prices are going to only increase by $75 for the premium throughout on an annual basis. And we hear others from State Farm, Turo, American Property Casualty Insurance Association saying, no, it's going to skyrocket. It's going to be completely unaffordable. It's going to increase the drivers who are uninsured. I'm just curious what your position was on that, what your thoughts as to what the price point will be under this new insurance.
So a number of different coverages are affected by increasing the mandatory minimum, and people have the choice to buy the statutory minimums, but many other people also buy uninsured and underinsured motorist coverage, which is tied into the BI limit. So if you increase the floor of the BI limit, whatever that cost may be, and you want to continue to buy underinsured and underinsured motorist coverage, especially in light of the fact that there may be more uninsured and you may be underinsured, you might want to buy that coverage, then those coverages match the BI floor, then that becomes more expensive as well. In one of the prior proposals where the second increase was like 75-200 to the BI, the actuary, we have priced it out at like a 270% increase in the underinsured motorist part of the coverage. So as a consumer looks to protect themselves in a comprehensive way, there are other coverages that are also affected that go sideways. So it's not just one thing, and I think the unintended consequence of forcing everyone to buy more, as you make the policy more robust, it becomes more expensive, and it puts people in the position where they might not be able to buy it at all. So you give them the choice only to buy a very rich policy or nothing at all. And then you might increase the uninsured motorist population, and we believe that it's directly connected to cost.
I see. Thank you. Okay. Representative Onishi.
Yeah, I have a question for Insurance Commissioner.
Just to clarify, I'm not the insurance commissioner. I'm just his lawyer.
Do you folks have any data in terms of motor vehicle insurance? How many people are at the minimum required?
I'm not sure if we have that off the top of my head. I can check with our rate and policy branch and ask.
So, this bill is a balance, right? It's a balance between trying to make sure that in today's costs, that insurance coverages have kept up with what the cost is in regards to both property damage and medical costs. And as far as the insurance commissioner, I guess your testimony is that let's look at some increase, but let's wait for a second increase until we see what has happened with the first increase.
Yes, because that second one is automatic. If
Right.
if
Right.
nothing is changed, then that would take place regardless. The
Okay.
second one.
So right now, our limit is, the low limit is 20,000, right?
All right, I'd have to look at the.
I mean, that's the current level, right? When I looked at the rest of the states, many of them are at 25. Hawaii is at the very bottom. Many states are at 25, and other states have higher limits. The initial bill the initial bill asked to increase it to, I believe was 50. which was blanked out.
Yeah, I don't recall the amount in the
Yeah,
in the
it
initial
was
draft.
50.
Okay.
In looking at, so part of the reasons why the Transportation Committee, which I sat on, we blanked out the amount was the concern about the costs. You folks didn't look at this and say, well, maybe we should be raising it to 30 to try to address everything, sort of at a midpoint.
We didn't have a specific recommendation on the amount.
Yeah. But you are suggesting that we do make an increase.
And we're not taking a position on the increase itself. We're not supporting or opposing the first increase. Our position is just comment only.
Okay, but you're asking us to amend the bill and only make one increase.
Yeah, to make only one increase with the thought that the issue of the second increase could be revisited after the impacts of the first increase can be assessed.
Okay. I guess, as far as being the insurance commission, we would be looking at you to provide us information on data on, what would make sense, I mean, it's at 20, we're proposing 50.
Mm-hmm.
In the previous committee, you heard the testimony that said that might put people in a position where they're not going to get insurance,
Mm-hmm.
right? But we already know that at 20, it may not be covering the costs effectively for both medical and property damage. So, I mean, who, is it left up to us to figure out, what's an appropriate amount that would sort of come midway in both situations or in both issues?
Yeah, and in the sense that we didn't take a position on the amount of the first increase, we don't have a position on what an appropriate amount would be. We do have a rate and policy branch that would look at the rates that come in now to make sure they're not inadequate or excessive. But as far as assessing the other social concerns that some of the other testifiers have brought up, that wouldn't be that's not part of the actuarial review process for those rates.
So how come they're not here to testify if they have information on rates and,
Well, we're not taking a position as to what the correct number should be. We're merely offering comments on the structure of the bill and that second increase. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Members, any further questions? Seeing none, we'll be moving on to the next agenda item, HB 1577, HD1, relating to motor vehicle towing fees. Are there any persons here to testify on this measure? Oh, please come up. No, take your time. And for the record, please state your name and if you're affiliated with any organization or business.
Paul Perry, and I'm with All Island Towing. And I support this bill. It's to allow tow companies to charge for upriding overturned vehicles that are on the roadway. It takes a lot more work than just regular hookup. It takes specialized equipment, some training. And the truth is that every 6 days, a tow truck operator is killed in this nation doing such activities. So I believe we should be able to charge a reasonable fee for that. And I'm willing to work with any state agency on what that fee might be. I'll take any more comments or questions.
Okay, thank you. Any other persons here to testify on this measure? Seeing none, members, we do have written testimony in support from Honolulu Towing Company, Isaiah's Towing, SS Towing Hawaii, one individual in opposition, one individual in support. Members, any questions? Chair? Sir? Excuse me, Ashley?
The bill currently has a blank amount.
Yes, sir.
For the additional fee. What would you say was a fair amount?
Under the city contract, it goes incremental by 15-minute increments. I would say we normally generally get the job done within the first 15 minutes because we're trying to get off the road. We don't want to get killed. I think a fair amount would be like $300.
Thank you very much.
Representative Onishi. Oh, hold on.
Sorry, follow up. So $30,
$300.
or $300 for the entire
For the
work?
15 minutes, yes. We normally get the work done within the first 15 minutes, or the first 15 minutes is free, and then anything after that takes additional is 15-minute increments. So $300 per 15-minute increments after the first 15 minutes. So we generally get the job done by then.
Okay, and that's to
Upright the vehicle,
operate a vehicle and then
get it
put
hooked
it
up,
on?
and get it off the road.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Any further questions? Seeing none. Okay. We'll be moving on to the next item, HB 1991 HD1. This is relating to motor vehicle insurance. First to testify, we have the Insurance Division from DCCA with comments. Thank you. Next, we have Davin Aoyagi from Turo in support.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, other committee members, Devin Ayagi with Turo offering our strong support for HB 1991 HD1. Just want to highlight a couple points. The first is that we've had the pleasure of discussing insurance minimums as it pertains to peer-to-peer car sharing over the past couple years in this committee. Turo's been consistent in our belief that peer-to-peer and traditional rental cars present the same sort of risk profile and therefore should have the same required minimum insurance. As I pointed out in HB 1539 HD1, the legislature determined last year under Act 210 that peer-to-peer should carry 4 times the state minimums. Our position here then is that rental cars should carry the same. It's, as we view it, as an issue of parity and fairness. And if this body and believes that 4 times is too high for rental cars, I think we welcome a discussion on finding a compromise insurance minimum standard that is equal for our industries. The fact of the matter is this: under the current law, the reality is that the same person renting the same make and model vehicle, driving the same roads, nonetheless have vastly different risk profiles and insurance for these vehicles, with one peer-to-peer, Turo, carrying 4 times, and the other aligned with state minimums. We continue to assert that there's no data that supports this disparity. We've provided the Insurance Commissioner's Office in the past 5 years of our claims data, and there's no information in that which indicates that we have this higher risk profile. You may also hear claims from traditional rental car companies that their vehicles are safer than the vehicles that Turo shares on its platform. I'm not familiar with any data that supports this conclusion. I think what I will say is just the anecdote, which is I've had the opportunity to drive rental cars and also share Turo. The folks that I do share vehicles with, these are vehicles that are owned by individuals who use these same vehicles to drive themselves and their loved ones to and from work throughout their daily course of life. And these are folks that are familiar and want to make sure that they keep their vehicles well maintained because they themselves use it. So with that being said, I'm available to answer any questions, and I thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Next, we have Evan Owe from the Hawaii Association for Justice in support. Thank you. Next, we have Lori Lum from Avis Budget Car Rental in opposition.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, committee members. Laurie Lum on behalf of Avis Budget Group, and we are testifying respectfully in opposition of this bill. First of all, rent-a-car and peer-to-peer are 2 totally different models. Avis Budget Group should not be placed in the position of having to provide primary insurance coverage as the bill suggests. While we maintain the state financially required insurance, we should continue to remain in a position to provide coverage only when there's no other valid and collective collectible insurance available. Historically, this has been the standard for the industry for decades, so we believe that a change in the process is unwarranted. Most renters, as you know, do have automobile insurance, and in cases where they have no valid and collectible insurance, we will provide coverage up to the state minimum financial responsibility requirement. Moreover, U-Drive companies offer optional additional liability insurance for an additional fee. Again, we pay our claims appropriately. There's no indication that the system does not work, and thus we believe there is no change to restructure the entire insurance model of the rent-a-car industry. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Next, we have Matt Sujimura from Enterprise Mobility in opposition.
Afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Matt Sujimura on behalf of Enterprise Mobility. We also stand in opposition to HB 1991. I'll echo the sentiments of the representative from Avis Budget Group, and do want to point out that the insurance structure for the rental car industry has been the practice effectively since the rental car industry's inception. That structure has been negotiated and worked through with regards to the rental car companies, insurance companies, other regulators, and things like that to ensure that no gaps in coverage exist, to ensure that the maximum protections exist, such that when we buy personal auto policies, when you or I or anybody buys a personal auto policy, within that insurance policy, there is typically one of the benefits to that policy is that that policy covers you while you rent a vehicle. And that coverage is meant, and it's been negotiated to be in there so that our policies, the ones that customers would purchase, which is best suited to that individual, follows them in their use of the rental car. Now, in the case that an individual does not have that coverage, that's where the rental car industry does step up and ensures that they do always provide the minimum coverages. And so to the point of the Avis Budget representative, as she made, that structure, we don't feel like it is necessary to have to shift that structure because it's been the long-standing practice of the industry. And I think, the underlying concern that Enterprise has with this bill is that it would put the rental car industry on par with the peer-to-peer industry, which up until this point, the concerning piece is that all we've heard is how different the two industries are. And suddenly we're being told that we're the same as the peer-to-peer industry, whereas they've been telling us the entire time that they are not rental car companies. So it's a little bit difficult to understand the continuity issue there of whether they are a peer-to-peer company or whether they're a rental car company. And so with regards to that, to speak to the safety standards of a rental car vehicle, because the rental car company owns the vehicle, when the vehicle comes back, they go through a very vigorous cleaning and screening and inspection and fixing and repairing process to ensure that that vehicle is ready to go for the next customer. When that vehicle is not being driven by a customer, it is on the lot awaiting to be rented versus being driven on the daily until the next rental occurs, which is what happens with a peer-to-peer rental. So I don't know about you guys, but I've driven over nails.
My apologies. Your 2 minutes is up. If you could wrap up your testimony.
Yeah. So
Thank you.
in that regard, we stand in strong opposition to the bill. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other persons here to testify on this measure? Seeing none, members, any questions? Representative Onishi.
Yeah, Futuro. So the vehicle insurance is provided by the owner, correct?
The vehicle insurance, so there's a couple of layers of insurance, Representative. The first is the insurance that is offered to the person that is listing the vehicle on the platform. This is what we call the host, right? So there is, Turo offers a $1 million policy for the hosts because rightfully so, if the owner of a vehicle, let's say the vehicle gets into an accident, right? We want to be sure that we can cover that vehicle, make sure that there's no gap in coverage, and it behooves us to make sure that we support the people listing the vehicles on the platform. Now, there are circumstances where guests will also purchase a policy, a protection plan, which we have traveler's insurance, which we offer to them. And under these protection plans, we offer and are in conformity with the 4 times minimum liability insurance that is under the law.
Okay, so a person who hosts a vehicle on your platform
Yes.
could not have any insurance?
No, that's not correct. We will provide them with an insurance plan that covers up to, I believe, $1 million in property damage. And I will.
So they have to buy your insurance?
No, we provide it to them. The way that it works is when they host their vehicle on the platform, they can opt into a certain plan. They will receive a certain percentage of their earnings. So in this case, they will receive, I think it's like a 90% earning take. And in exchange, they will have a small deductible. But the plan is still provided by Turo via Travelers Insurance to make sure that there's no gap in coverage and that we do provide protection for that.
So they don't have their own personal insurance?
They may have insurance beyond that, but our goal again is to make sure that, as the law is currently stated, we are the primary and we are here to make sure that there's no gap in coverage.
Okay. So, your coverage, that $1 million policy, is not the amount required by law.
It is the amount that pertains to the vehicles, the hosts that put their vehicles on the platform. The amount that is recovered by law currently is 4 times the state minimums, which we apply to our guest policy. That's the individuals that are, sharing their or I guess renting their vehicle for a couple days on the platform.
Okay. So a person renting a Turo vehicle, is that vehicle covered by their personal car insurance?
No, again, pursuant to sort of our peer-to-peer statute, we are going to be, we have to provide a primary insurance plan, which we do through Travelers. And so they will opt into that insurance plan as they book a vehicle on our platform. And so that is the plan at this case that is primary because we are aligned at 4 times.
So they have to purchase it?
I believe it's the case where you have to opt into either there are various levels of protection for, again, your coverage, but it is correct that they have to opt into that sort of plan. Because, again, in the peer-to-peer statute, it is clear that we have to provide this primary plan, or there needs to be a primary plan offered.
Okay, so it's different from the rental car industry.
I would say it's different in a couple ways. The motor vehicle, and again, you can feel free to call up obviously some of my colleagues in the rental car industry to clarify that. I believe that in the case of the rental car, while there is language saying that they shall be primary, there's actually a list of exclusions, and what HB 1991 HD1 also includes is the crossing out of those exclusions, essentially making them primary with no way to then make their insurance secondary. So it is the case that in most cases currently, traditional rental car companies are secondary in their insurance. And as you know, Representative, under the current state law, they're also aligned solely to the state minimums, these same state minimums that have not changed for 25 years.
So they're secondary only if you've waived insurance coverage and it's going to use your own?
I believe,
right?
No, I believe in HB 1991, there's actually a provision in the law as it pertains to, U-Drives and motor vehicle rentals, where it says that they shall be primary except in certain cases, and it lists out certain scenarios whereby they can become secondary. What the draft does is it actually crosses out those provisions so that they will be primary in a number of cases, and they won't be able to rely on that checklist to de facto become a secondary insurance provider.
But in your case in Turo,
we are primary.
Right? You're primary, but you also are required for the renter to buy this coverage from.
It is the case where under the way that we work is that our guests have to
So there's
provide,
a double coverage.
There is a coverage to ensure that, again, we provide that primary coverage and that there's no gap in insurance coverage.
I understand,
Yes.
but you're also requiring the renter to purchase an insurance policy.
To the best of my knowledge, I believe that's our current policy.
That's 4 times the minimum in Hawaii.
That is correct.
So it is different from car rental companies.
Yes.
Right? What you're required to do and what they're required to do.
Yes, there is that difference in terms of how we execute our operations.
I guess, Matt, if you could come up, please? Yes, Chair, if it's okay. So is there a gap in your coverage?
No, there's no gap. In the rental car industry insurance coverages, there's no gap.
Right. So the renters got options as to whether or not they buy an insurance coverage from you, from the car rental company, right? Or they use their own personal insurance coverage.
So typically, customers of the rental car industry, when you rent the car, you can opt into additional coverages because either the renter themselves, their personal auto policy will take primary and will cover any of the events, covering up to the minimums. Lacking that, the rental car company provides the minimum insurance requirements for the vehicle and for that driver themselves, if the driver has none. The coverages that you would purchase, at the counter, those are all additional coverages on top of the minimums.
Okay, so if a person rents a vehicle from you and they said they're going to use their own insurance coverage and they have to provide you with some form of verification, right, that they have insurance coverage?
If and when the occasion arises that that insurance coverage is necessary, yes. But I don't believe that right off the bat at the counter that would be necessary because between the driver or the rental car company, that coverage is going to be provided.
Anyway.
Yes.
Okay. Can I get a follow-up from Turo?
Sure.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair. So in your scenario,
Yes.
right, if I rent a vehicle from you, I cannot use my own insurance coverage to cover the vehicle or the rental.
To the best of my knowledge, I believe that's the case where we have our guests purchase these protection plans due to the primacy.
Okay, so
right?
the answer is no, right? I cannot use my own.
Yes, I
personal-
believe that's the case.
Okay. So you require, if I rent a car from you, you require me to buy this insurance coverage in order to do the rental.
I believe that that is
Okay.
a requirement, that they purchase a protection plan on our platform.
So when does your coverage kick in?
That is what I'm referring to. The protection plan is the coverage that we provide. So we
But I'm paying
purchase.
for it, not you.
It's the case where we still provide it via Travelers. So we do purchase a protection,
Above,
an agreement with Travelers Insurance. And
that's
and
above
I can,
the minimum?
I believe, I would have to look into that and get back to you, Representative. What I can say is that the protection plan that we purchase through Travelers is meant to comply with the state law and the minimum set for the guests.
Okay. But I'm paying for it.
Again, it's not clear, you do pay for a certain portion of it, and all of the plans are required to meet the minimum. There are levels of protection as it pertains to the deductible you want to pay in case you get into an accident, but it is a case where we purchase the plan.
So who pays the deductible?
There are varying levels of protection for the plans, of which the guests will cover certain levels depending on how they
Okay.
want to opt into it.
So in essence, I am reimbursing you for the coverage that you're purchased through Travelers.
I don't know if it's a one-for-one reimbursement, Representative.
Well, I'm not saying it's a one-for-one.
Yeah.
But all I'm saying is conceptually, I'm reimbursing Turo for the coverage that they bought from Travelers.
It is, again.
It is not a policy with Travelers.
I think that it is a policy with Travelers, but it is a case where Turo negotiates with Travelers to provide this policy, if that makes sense.
For the rate.
That's correct. And to make sure that the
Okay.
coverages are in compliant with the state minimums. And I'm also,
So-
yeah.
What is your your company's coverage? Because you required me to buy the coverage anyway.
Yes.
So
Again,
what's your coverage? I
well-
mean, you heard the insurance company where, hey, if they find out later I don't have any coverage, they're gonna cover the costs,
sure,
right? That's their insurance requirement.
sure.
But in your case, you don't have that requirement that Turo covers because I gotta pay the insurance anyway.
Well, again, under the statute for peer-to-peer car sharing, there's a requirement that we must provide a primary
Because you're
policy.
different, right?
There is that difference in the insurance, yeah.
Yeah.
But again, the thing that I would note is the issue of primacy is one where even in the context of this bill before us, right, HB 1991, under Section 3 of the measure, it mentions that U-Drive shall be primary except in these cases. And then it provides a list of exclusions, which is why they will say that there is an issue of primacy. In the statute actually reads as they shall be primary except when these certain circumstances arise. It's just that these circumstances happen to exclude a significant number of events.
Do you know what those are?
Sure. So it says the U-Drive rental business provides any claimant or person sustaining accidental harm or damages as a result of the operation of the rental vehicle, the identity and address of the operator or renter, along with any information available to the U-Drive rental business as the identity and address of any insurer under any liability policies applicable to the operator or renter, provided that the U-Drive rental business shall make reasonable efforts to obtain such information. A suit under 2, a suit may be filed and service upon the responsible operator or renter can be effectuated, and an insurer responds on behalf of the operator or renter to a claim or suit in cases where the U-Drive motor vehicle insurance policy is primary because of 1, a failure of a renter operator to cooperate with the U-Drive rental business in providing the information described in subsection A1. 2, the failure to file suit and effectuate services described in subsection A2. Or 3, the failure of an insurer to respond as described in subsection A3 or defend a claim or pay required benefits of a judgment. The U-Drive rental business may recover from the renter, operator, or insurer the sums the U-Drive rental business expended in payments or benefits along with reasonable attorney's fees and expenses.
Okay, so, and you don't have any exclusions?
No, we are the primary. The peer-to-peer statute.
You are the primary, which I pay for.
Yes, it is the case where we must provide a primary insurance policy that covers 4 times the state minimums. Guests do pay
I
a
pay
certain.
for it.
Again, yes,
Okay.
to
Thank
the
you.
extent. Thank you, Representative.
Representative Amato.
Thank you. I'm sorry, quick question for Turo, please. Okay, so are vehicle owners covered by the Turo insurance policy when the vehicle is not actively being rented but is listed on the website as available? Or does the policy only temporarily go into effect when the vehicle is under an active rental contract?
I would have to follow up on that with you, Representative. I'm happy to look into that and get back to you.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Members, any further questions? Seeing none, we'll be moving on to the last item of the agenda, HB 2112, HD1 relating to moped insurance. First to testify, we have Mike Roseman, individual in opposition.
Vice Chair, board members. So insurance requirements for motorcycles should not be applied to mopeds because they're 2 different types of vehicles. The motorcycles weigh 600 pounds or more. They develop higher speeds comparable with a car, and the liability to others can be considerable. The legal 4-stroke mopeds, on the other hand, have a small 1.9 horsepower engine, and they drive at less than 30 miles an hour, and their weight is under 150 pounds. So they cause minimum damage to others, and the drivers will not buy personal injury insurance or any other type of health insurance with their policy. So the policies are too expensive for this low-income community. Plus, on your statistics, it shows motorcycles and moped accidents are lumped in one number, and they don't reflect the actual moped accidents. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other persons here to testify on this measure? Please go ahead. And for the record, please state your name.
Good afternoon. My name is Mark McCoy. On behalf of Moped Garage, I appreciate the time, Chair, Vice Chair, and Councilman. I'm reiterating kind of what he said as well, Mike Rosenman. But You know, the crash data, when you look into the crash data, you can find the last 10 years of crash data for automobiles and the damage and liability that they've had. You can find the crash data for motorcycles, but when you actually dig into it, mopeds haven't done any damage, property damage, that's appreciable in the state of Hawaii in the last 10 years. I challenge you to find it. It's not out there. You know, previous lawmakers set forth regarding mopeds and crafted HRS 286-2. And in doing that, they made careful guidelines, you know, that mopeds shall be less than 50 cc's, less than 30 miles an hour, and less than 2 horsepower. In doing that, their language states that this was all in an effort to ensure that mopeds don't require insurance. This bill goes directly in the face of previous lawmakers who set forth that HRS 286-2. In addition to that, what's the upside of moped insurance? There is none. There is none. The downside is the entire Hawaii economy will be affected. I know that sounds preposterous, but who uses mopeds? Current legal mopeds: hospitality workers, dishwashers, waitstaffs, maids, busboys, parking lot attendants, people working 2 to 3 jobs to make ends meet. And using mopeds, they save gas, they save on parking, they save on insurance. This bill will saddle their already financially stressed lives and their families' lives with fees and bureaucracy with literally no upside. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other persons here to testify on this measure? Seeing none, members, we do have written testimony in opposition from the Hawaiian-style rentals and sales, moped doctors, and 23 individual, my apologies, 20 individuals in oppositions. Members, any questions? Actually, since DCCA Insurance Division is still here, if I might ask a question for you guys. Sure. So I'm just curious because this measure does involve insuring mopeds, the mandatory minimum. Does DCCA have any concerns or positions on this measure?
Oh, no, we've looked at it, but we don't have any position on it, and we didn't have any concerns to note. No.
Okay, thank you. And similarly with Hawaii Insurance Councils, I'm just curious because, again, it is insurance. Any position on providing insurance for mopeds? Would your members or the local insurance carriers be able to provide that kind of insurance?
Oh, I think if it were mandated that the carriers, there are certain carriers that specialize in motorcycle insurance, and if it's under the motorcycle, it has its own section of law, 43110G, and those requirements are different than motor vehicle requirements. So those insurers that write motorcycle insurance would probably underwrite the moped insurance as well. The requirements are for liability and not for personal injury protection. So it would be similar to what motorcycles have to buy, right? It's BI coverage. So I would think that those, there are a couple of insurers who specialize there that they would probably offer it to mopeds as well.
Okay, thank you. Members, any further questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll be taking a short recess for decision making. Recess.
reconvening the Committee on Consumer Protection and Commerce for decision-making. It's Wednesday, February 28, 2024. You're in conference room 329. Members, first up is House Bill 1828, House Draft 1, related to energy efficiency portfolio standards. Chair's recommendation is that we move this as is. Members, questions or comments? Seeing none, Vice Chair, unamended.
Voting on HB 1828 HD1, Chair's recommendation is to pass as is. Chair, Vice Chair, vote aye. Representative Amato? Aye. Representative Bellotti, excused. Representative Hashem? Aye. Representative Halsey-Burdick? Aye. Representative Gates?
Aye.
Representative Lowen? Aye. Representative Onishi?
Aye.
Representative Tam?
Aye.
Representative Pierick?
Aye.
Thank you, Chair. Your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you very much. Next, House Bill 1896, House Draft 1, related to environmental protection. Chair's recommendation on this is that the PFAS products included and approved by the FDA be exempt from the current measure. That PFAS products that are included for intentional breakdown of products will also be excluded from the measure, and technical amendments needed for clarity, consistency, and style. Members, any questions or comments? Seeing none, Vice Chair, as amended.
Voting on HB 1896 HD1, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Noting the excused absence of Representative Bellotti for the rest of this hearing, any members voting with reservations? Any members voting no?
No.
No from Representative Pierick. Thank you, Chair. Your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you very much. Next, House Bill 1897, House Draft 1, related to single-use plastics. The chair would like to specify that notwithstanding Section 342H-9, that lodging establishments that violate subsection A shall be subject to a civil penalty of $500 for the first violation and $2,000 for the second or subsequent violations, and that under Section 342H-7, the Attorney General will be authorized to bring action in the environmental court. Members, any questions or comments? Seeing none, Vice Chair, as amended.
Voting on HB 1897 HD1, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Any members voting with reservation? Any members voting no? No. No from Representative Pierick. Thank you, Chair. Your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you very much, members. House Bill 2020, House Draft 1, related to renewable energy. I want to note that provided that any energy facility that is a result of this measure shall not be able to wheel over existing utility lines. Also, there is a technical note that on page 3, line 4, the highlighted language regarding renewable energy as parenthesis as defined in section 296-91 produced by is also not present in the printed version of the HRS, and so should be deleted from the bill. Members, any questions or comments? So that the highlighted language that is not printed in, that highlighted language is not printed in the version of HRS and should be deleted from the bill. Underline renewable energy as defined in section 269-91 produced by. So it's a technical amendment. Members, any other questions or comments? Seeing none, Vice Chair, as amended.
Voting on HB 2020 HD1, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Any members voting with reservation? Reservation from Representative Amato. Any members voting no? Thank you, Chair. Your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you very much. House Bill 2390, House Draft 1, related to renewable energy. Chair's recommendation is that we adopt HECO amendments regarding combusting of fuel and greenhouse gas emissions. Members, any questions or comments? Seeing none, Vice Chair, as amended.
Voting on HB 2390 HD1, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Any members voting with a reservation? Any members voting no? Thank you, Chair. Your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you very much. HB 1836, House Draft 1, related to health. On this, I would like to clarify that authorization to refill under this measure applies to prescriptions, but does not apply to prescriptions for controlled substances. And two, clarifying that the authorization to refill is only up to 30-day supply. So that would be an amendment to clarify this bill. Members, any questions or comments?
Chair?
Representative Onishi.
Yeah, I have a concern that this bill allows for people to request from pharmacists a refill when they're not in the impacted zone. And so, you know, there might be reasons why their prescriber is unavailable. And, you know, they might be misrepresenting why they need these prescriptions, and when they're not really necessary, or they might be using it for some other purpose. So I would have concerns about not restricting it only to the areas that are affected by the declaration. So I'm going to be voting with reservations.
Okay, thank you very much. Members, any other questions or comments?
Aren't all prescriptions controlled substances, and that's why you need a prescription to get them?
Yes.
So what would this bill do if you're exempting controlled substances?
So what happens is if there is a situation where you are unable to get a prescription from your doctor or are unable to get medication, you are able to do so through the authority granted by this bill.
Right, but didn't you just exempt controlled substances from the bill?
Yes, controlled substances.
So what would this apply to?
It would be other drugs that are not controlled substances.
Is there a definition for controlled substance? Because I thought that all prescriptions are controlled substances, and that is what it means to have a prescription to get one.
I do not have that information offhand.
Deb Matias, I'm a nurse practitioner. Controlled substance would be a narcotic, so there's certain restrictions with those medications, and they're classified differently. So that's your difference between when you write a prescription. If it's controlled substance, you're only allowed to write it for a certain amount of days, and they're not refillable. So you actually have to get a prescription each time. You can't put refills on it. Like general antibiotics, you can put refills. Blood pressure medications, you can do refills on that. Controlled substance, you can only do that. And so that's the limitation. They're usually like narcotics and medications that you have to control a little bit more.
Thank you for that clarification.
Thank you for the clarification. Any other questions or concerns? Not as amended, Vice Chair.
Voting on HB 1836 HD1, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments noting the presence of Representative Bellotti. Any members voting with reservations, noting the reservations vote from Representative Onishi. Any other members voting no? Thank you, Chair. Your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you very much. House Bill 1777, House Draft 1, relating to dental hygienists. The Chair's recommendation is to pass this unamended. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, Vice Chair, unamended. Oh, okay, thank you very much.
Okay. Voting on HB 1777 HD1, Chair's recommendation is to pass as is. Any members voting with reservation? Any members voting no? Thank you, Chair. Your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you very much. House Bill 2800, House Draft 1, Chair's relating to mental health. Chair's recommendation is to defer this matter. House Bill 1539, House Draft 1, related to transportation. Chair's recommendation is to move this as is. Members, any questions or comments? Seeing none, Vice Chair, unamended.
Voting on HB 1539 HD1, Chair's recommendation is to pass as is. Any members voting with reservations? Any members voting no? No from Representative Purick and Representative Hussey Burdick. Thank you, Chair. Your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you very much. House Bill 1577, House Draft 1, related to motor vehicle towing fees. The Chair would like to note in the committee report that the recommendation from a practitioner was $300 to fill the blank, but I'm not going to fill the blank at this point in time. Members, any questions or comments? Seeing none, Vice Chair, actually unamended.
Voting on HB 1577 HD1, Chair's recommendation is to pass as is. Any members voting with reservation? Any member? Reservations from Representative Mato. Any members voting no? Thank you, Chair. Your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you very much. House Bill 1991, House Draft 1, related to motor vehicle insurance. Chair's recommendation is to pass this as is. Members, questions or comments? Representative Onishi.
Yeah, I fail to understand why we're trying to make this the same when obviously we have two different models of insurance coverage. When I rent a vehicle, I have a choice whether or not to use my insurance or to buy additional coverage in order to cover that vehicle so my personal insurance is not utilized. In the other model, you don't have a choice. If you want to rent a Turo vehicle, you have to buy their insurance. So they're not being required to actually foot the bill for the insurance. You're footing the bill anyway. So I don't know how this makes anything any different except to possibly increase the costs for me to buy additional insurance through when I rent a car from a car rental company. So with that, I'm going to be voting no on this bill.
All right, thank you very much. Members, any other questions or comments? Seeing none, Vice Chair, as is.
Voting on HB 1991, Chair's recommendation is to pass as is. Noting the, was it no vote from Representative Onishi?
Yep.
Any members voting with reservations? Reservations from Representative Gates. Any members voting no? No from Representative Purick. Thank you, Chair. Your recommendations are adopted.
Thank you very much. House Bill 2112, House Draft 1, related to moped insurance. Chair notes a number of technical amendments for clarity, consistency, and style involving inclusion of the mopeds in Section 431 G10-104, Section 291C-194, Section 431G105, 431G106, 431G108, 431G202, and 431G206. And those are where the insurance requirements talk about motorcycles, and we're adding the motor scooters to those provisions. Members, any questions or comments?
Sorry, were those technical then?
Yeah, so we're just adding to those sections where motorcycles appear, the mopeds.
Yes, Chair. Just brief comments.
Yes.
Thank you, Chair, for hearing this measure. I do realize there are a number of changes that need to be made, and I appreciate the committee's work on this. I do want to take note in the committee report that there was data submitted by the Hawaii Department of Transportation in the previous committee hearing. In 2023, there are 417 crashes involving mopeds in Hawaii. In 2021 to 2022, there were a total of 744 injured moped riders that were transported to the Hawaii hospitals. Just want to make sure that there is data available publicly that there are a lot of crashes involving mopeds, and we do want to hope that they are protected from potential crashes like these. But again, I appreciate the committee's patience, and I look forward to working with industry experts to make sure that this bill is equitable.
Okay, we will include those statistics in the committee report.
Thank you.
Members, any other questions or comments? Seeing none?
Comment?
Yes.
I just,
Please, Hasselberg.
I appreciate the intent of this bill. I just, kind of as a matter of policy, have a hard time voting in support of a bill that doesn't have any supporting testimony. So I'll be voting with reservations today.
All right, thank you very much. Members, any other questions or comments? Seeing none, Vice Chair, as amended.
Voting on HB 2112 HD1, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments noting the reservations vote from Representative Hussey Burdick. Any members voting with reservations? Any members voting no? No. No from Representative Purick. Thank you, Chair. Your recommendation is adopted.
Okay, thank you very much. We are adjourned.